Hey, Ron here from Military Images Magazine. Thanks for joining me on a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. Today, we're traveling back in time to 1866 and Hopkinsville, Kentucky, the home of the two individuals pictured here. At first glance, this portrait might be dismissed as one of the countless 19th century photographs of couples. So, what do we see? It's a man and a woman. The man has a beard, a grayish beard. Both individuals have some wrinkles. They're not spring chickens. They're probably in their 40s or 50s. The image itself is a carte de visite, a photographic format about the size of a modern baseball card. They landed in America from France about 1859, 1860, became all the rage in America during the Civil War. We know this is a carte de visite because of the size. We know that it dates to the Civil War period because of the borders, the gold borders around the edge, which was a popular style, a popular flourish added to images during the 1860s. So we've got that. If this image were in a pile of cartes de visite and you were at an antique shop or a flea market or someplace that had Civil War images, I can easily see you going through the stack of photographs, giving it a glance and passing it by. And rightly so, although I would argue it's quite a beautiful portrait. The clarity is crisp. The content is wonderful. They're looking off camera. So it really attracts my attention, but I could understand why you might just go through it as one of so many images that look similar. But where this image gets quite fascinating is when you flip it over. If you had that stack in your hand and you turned over to see the back, here's what you'd see. This wonderful period ink inscription, the rich brown ink with the edges dark brown, the center of each beautifully inked line is a lighter brown. It definitely says 19th century. And then smack in the middle of this photograph is the photographer's imprint, their advertisement. We know immediately that the photographer was named Brown and he was working in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. To the left and the right, flanking the imprint, the photographer's imprint, is the date 1866. So now we know it was made in 1866 in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And even better, at the top of the image, we see the names of the individuals who were in the photograph. You have John Rousey Green. He's 49 years old. I did a little bit of research, thank you, Ancestry.com, and I was able to find John. He was born in 1817. He dies in 1875. So at the time of this photograph, he's got about another 10 years of life left. His wife sitting next to him is Elizabeth. Elizabeth was born in 1822. She lived until 1895. So she had a good chunk of life ahead of her, about another quarter century. They were married in 1839, about 20 years before the Civil War, and had 8 children. 5 of those children are referenced below the photographer's imprint, and that's what really got me excited about this photograph. The words, you probably have already read them by now, the parents of 5 ragged Rebs. So, in fact, thanks to Ancestry, thanks to Fold3.com, which is owned by Ancestry, I was able to find who these 5 sons were and a little bit about what happened to them while they're in the Confederate Army. You've got 1 officer and 5 men in the ranks. The officer is William Green. He was a first lieutenant in the 1st Kentucky Cavalry, which is also known as Helm's Cavalry. Then the privates, Thomas Wallace Green, who served in the 12th Cavalry, Edward, who served in Green's battery of the Kentucky Light Artillery, Lucius Green, who served in the 1st Kentucky Light Artillery Battery, and last but not least, Memican Hunt Green, who served like his older brother, who was a first lieutenant in the 12th Kentucky Cavalry. Memican, by the way, is the child who does not survive the war. All the rest of them do. but Memican is killed in action at the Battle of Bryce's Crossroads, Mississippi in June 1864. I have yet to find their portraits. So when we go back and flip the photograph over, we see the faces of John and Elizabeth Green, taken in 1866. The war has been over for a year. 4 of their warrior sons have survived. One of them died in the war. So there you've got this one photograph, this carte de visite from 1866, an image that you might pass by pretty quickly, but turn it around and you'll find quite an amazing story on the back. I'm hoping that someday I'm going to find photographs of their 5 sons. Until then, but more likely until the next episode tomorrow, happy trails.